Hello and welcome to NewsClick. We are in conversation today with Professor Walden Bello, who is the former Executive Director of Focus on the Global South, and he is an elected member of the House of Representatives in Philippines. Professor Bello has been a long-time campaigner against imperialist globalization and a very senior policy analyst. Thank you for being with us in NewsClick.
Thank you for inviting me, Amin. Happy to be here.
Raise your right hand and follow after me.
Ako,
Si
Benigno Aquino III,
mataimtim kong pinanunumpaan
ay taimtim kong pinanunumpaan
na't sigasig ang aking mga tungkulin.
at sigasig ang aking mga tungkulin.
Congratulations.
Maraming salamat po. Father, thank you.
My parents sought nothing less and died for nothing less than democracy, peace, and prosperity. I am blessed by this legacy. I shall carry the torch forward.
There is a lot of attention on Philippines after the recent elections and with the new presidentship of Noynoy Aquino. And we understand that he ran the election campaign on a plank of reducing corruption and on also addressing the issue of human rights violation and on a pro-democracy platform. Now, how important are these issues in Philippines, and how do you think they are going to play out in the new presidentship of Aquino?
Well, I think that definitely the platform of the new administration during the elections was, if there is no corruption, there are no poor people. That was a literal translation from the Tagalog or Filipino. That was a very resonant theme with the population. After 9 years of the government of Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, which was riddled with corruption. And so there was almost like a breath of fresh air when Aquino won, garnering over 40% of the vote and leaving his various opponents very far behind. So I think that the administration is quite serious about the corruption issue, and this is the reason why it has established a truth commission, which will be an attempt to ferret out facts about major corruption scandals that involve the former president and her family. And one of the problems here, of course, is that the ombudsman that was appointed by the former president is still in office, because her being in office is not coterminous with Mrs. Arroyo's leaving government, which means that she's in a position to block significant substantive investigation of all the major scandals that the Arroyo family was involved with, and that's going to be a problem. So the majority with which we're allied at this point within the House of Representatives are therefore launched on a campaign to impeach the ombudsman, remove her from office so that real investigation of corruption can take place.
And issues of human rights violations, is that a major?
Yes, I mean there is, again, the former administration was very much giving a lot of free hand to the military in terms of the military's campaign against insurgents and guerrillas.
And who are these insurgents and guerrillas?
Well, not only insurgents and guerrillas, but people in civil society that were somehow identified as being seen as linked with the radical opposition. with parts of the left in the Philippines. And this is another major issue against the former president.
So, are those going to change in this new regime?
Well, this is part of, I think, the struggle that we progressives have. On the one hand, we're allied to the administration. On the other hand, we have to really push the president to take very good stands on land reform.
Does he have a position on land reforms, a stated position?
Well, he did say that he would promote the land reform of or the expropriation and redistribution of what is, one of the biggest lands in the Philippines, called Hacienda Luisita, of which is he owns a part, and his family is very much one of the owners, among other kin, of Hacienda Luisita. And during the campaign, he said that he would allow the redistribution of land. After the campaign, his remarks have become much more ambiguous with respect to this, and we certainly are urging him to go, with his campaign promise of, in fact, redistributing land.
Philippines is also held out as one of the examples of privatization. For example, the electricity sector privatization.
Oh yes, that's.
Are those and the allowing foreign companies in the mining sector? Now, are those things going to be reversed? Are there any signs that there will be a?
No, at the moment, this is another arena of struggle that we face. Privatization, especially of the energy sector, has been dismal in terms of its performance in the Philippines. Privatization has not resulted in lower rates of electricity, has not resulted in more effective and efficient delivery of electricity. And we're now out to, really have a focus on investigating what has happened with privatization ever since the early part of this decade, because the results have been quite dismal, not only in electricity, but also when it comes to water. So these are, this was not part of the campaign promise, but it is something that we're going to make very big, because there are complaints all over about how passing the production of energy and electricity from the state, the National Power Corporation, to the private sector has actually resulted only in the monopolization by big corporations of the distribution and the production of energy. So the president also promised during the campaign that he was open to repudiating the Philippine debt. In fact, those words were the words that he used. And right now, Amit, we, in terms of our national budget, we're now going through the budget in Congress. There's only something like around 12% of the budget is devoted to capital expenditures, which is very essential for development. And 22% of the budget is devoted to debt service payments, meaning paying the interest on the Philippines' debt. And if you add up what goes to paying for the interest and then the amortization of the principal, that comes to something like almost 48% of the government budget. And so this is something that is extremely serious.